Never be affected. There was a man in ancient Rome. Not a king. Not a general. Not a man of great wealth or great name. He was a teacher. And one day, in the middle of one of his lectures, a student stood up and began to mock him. Loudly. Cruellement. In front of everyone. The other students went silent. They waited for the teacher to react, to defend himself, to raise his voice, to show anger, to show hurt. The teacher stopped speaking. He looked at the student calmly, and then he continued his lecture, word for word, from exactly where he left off, as if nothing had happened, as if the insult had landed in empty air and dissolved. After the lesson, a student approached him privately. "How did you do that? How were you not affected?" The teacher looked at him and said something that has echoed through 2,000 years of Stoic philosophy. "He did not affect me because I did not give him permission to." That teacher was Epictetus, born a slave, beaten, broken in body, but never, not once, broken in mind, because he understood something that most people spend their entire lives never learning. You are only ever affected by what you allow inside. And tonight, for the next hour, we are going to learn exactly how to close that door. How to move through this world, through its noise, its cruelty, its chaos, its opinions, its betrayals, its losses, and never be shaken. Never be affected. This is the Stoic mindset. The first truth: the world will always push. Let us begin with the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. The world is not going to stop pushing you. It is not going to become kinder. It is not going to become quieter. It is not going to become more fair. People will say things designed to hurt you. Life will hand you things you did not ask for. Plans will fall apart at the worst possible moment. People you trusted will disappoint you. Things you worked for will be taken from you. This is not pessimism. This is honesty. And the Stoics were the most honest philosophers who ever lived, because they refused to dress reality in comfortable clothing just to make it easier to look at. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, wrote privately in his journal about how difficult people were, how frustrating the days were, how heavy the weight of responsibility felt. He did not pretend it was easy. He did not perform happiness. He simply chose, every single morning, not to be destroyed by it. That is the difference between most people and the Stoic. Most people spend their energy trying to change what is outside of them. The Stoic spends their energy mastering what is inside. And here is why that matters. You cannot control what people say about you. You cannot control what life removes from you. You cannot control the economy, the news, the behavior of others, the timing of events. But you can completely and totally control your response. That space between what happens to you and how you respond. That space is where your entire life is lived. Protect that space. Guard it like it is the most valuable thing you own. Because it is. The second truth: most reactions are borrowed. Here is something that will make you stop and think. Most of your reactions do not belong to you. They were given to you by your parents, by your environment, by the culture you grew up in, by the people who raised you, by the experiences that shaped you before you were old enough to choose how they shaped you. You learned that criticism means danger, so now criticism makes you defensive. You learned that silence means rejection, so now silence makes you anxious. You learned that conflict means loss, so now conflict makes you shrink. None of these reactions were chosen. They were inherited. And because they were inherited, most people live their entire lives reacting to the present with the wounds of the past. Someone says one sharp word, and suddenly you are not a grown adult in full control of your life. You are a child again, hurt, afraid, defensive. The Stoics called this living in reaction, and they considered it the lowest form of existence, not because they judged the person, but because they understood what it costs. Every time you react without choosing, you give your power away to whoever or whatever triggered you. Think about what that means. Every person who provokes you controls you. Every situation that upsets you owns you. Every opinion that wounds you has authority over your peace. That is not freedom. That is the most sophisticated cage ever built, because you cannot see the bars. The Stoic practice begins here, with the honest recognition that most of your reactions are automatic, and that anything automatic can be interrupted, can be examined, can be replaced. Epictetus taught his students to pause between the event and the response. Just a pause, not a long one, a breath, a moment of stillness. In that pause, you choose. React or respond. Be affected or be anchored. That pause is not weakness. That pause is the most powerful thing a human being can do. The third truth: opinions are not facts. One of the greatest sources of suffering in modern life is this. We treat opinions as if they are facts. Someone says you are not good enough, and we carry it like it is written in stone. Someone says your dream is unrealistic, and we shrink away from it. Someone says you have failed, and we accept the verdict without questioning the judge. The Stoics had a word for this. They called it giving assent. When you hear something and immediately accept it as true, you have given assent. And the Stoic discipline is this: do not give assent to anything that has not been examined. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change." Notice what he said. Show me, not tell me, not shout at me, not repeat it louder, not say it with more emotion. Show me, with logic, with evidence, with reason. If you cannot show me, then your opinion about me is just noise passing through the air. And noise, no matter how loud, does not have to land inside you. This is one of the most liberating realizations a human being can have. The person criticizing you is speaking from their own experience, their own fears, their own wounds, their own limitations. When a person tells you that you cannot do something, they are really telling you what they believe about themselves. When a person tries to make you feel small, they are revealing the size of their own self-image. When a person attacks you without reason, they are bleeding from a wound that has nothing to do with you. You do not have to absorb their pain. You do not have to carry their limitations. You do not have to accept their story about who you are. You get to decide that. Only you. And the moment you fully understand that, the opinions of others lose their power completely. Not partially, completely. The fourth truth: emotion is not the enemy. Here is where many people misunderstand Stoicism. They think the goal is to feel nothing, to become stone, to remove emotion, to walk through life cold and untouchable. That is not Stoicism. That is numbness. And numbness is not strength. The Stoics felt deeply. Marcus Aurelius grieved the loss of his children. He wrote about it with raw honesty. Seneca felt loneliness, anxiety, the weight of his own shortcomings. Epictetus felt the injustice of his slavery. He simply refused to let it define the boundaries of his mind. The goal is not to stop feeling. The goal is to stop being ruled by feeling. There is a vast difference between the two. You can feel anger without becoming anger. You can feel hurt without becoming the wound. You can feel fear without becoming afraid. The emotion passes through you like weather through an open window. You feel the wind. You acknowledge the storm. But the room does not flood, because you are not the storm. You are the one standing in the room. This is emotional mastery. Not the absence of feeling, but the presence of choice within feeling. When something happens that triggers anger, the Stoic feels it, and then asks, is this anger useful right now? Does acting from this anger serve me or destroy me? If the anger is useful, it becomes fuel. If it is not, it is released. Not suppressed. Not buried. Not denied. Released. Like opening your hand and letting something fall. You do not hold on to what does not serve you. That is not coldness. That is wisdom. The fifth truth: stillness is your greatest weapon. In a world that rewards reaction, stillness is a superpower. Think about the people who unsettle you most. They are usually loud. emotional, unpredictable. They raise their voices. They push. They provoke. They create chaos because chaos is the only environment where they feel in control. And most people respond in kind, matching their energy, raising their own voice, entering the chaos. And the moment you do, you have lost, because you have left your ground and entered theirs. The Stoic does not move, not out of passivity, not out of cowardice, out of complete and total understanding that stillness is the one place where clear thinking lives. You cannot think clearly in chaos. You cannot make wise decisions from a place of emotional flooding. You cannot see the situation accurately when you are inside the storm. But step back, stay still, and everything becomes clear. Marcus Aurelius practiced this before every difficult meeting, every military decision, every moment of leadership that required his best self. He would pause, breathe, return to his principles, and then act, not from emotion, but from reason. That is what stillness gives you. Not distance from life, clarity within it. Here is how you build it. Practice silence daily. Not the absence of noise, but the deliberate choice to sit with yourself without distraction. 10 minutes, 15. Just you and your own mind. No phone. No music, no podcast, juste présence. Because the person who can sit with themselves in silence cannot be destabilized by noise. The person who knows their own mind cannot be confused by someone else's opinion of it. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is where you find out exactly who you are. And when you know who you are, nothing and no one can tell you differently. The sixth truth: detachment is not indifference. There is a word the Stoics used that is perhaps the most misunderstood concept in all of their philosophy. The word is detachment, and people hear that word and think it means not caring, not loving, not being invested in outcomes, going through life like nothing matters. That is not what it means. Detachment, in the Stoic sense, means this: you can love deeply without needing the outcome to be a certain way in order to be okay. You can work hard toward a goal without your identity collapsing if the goal is not reached. You can care about people without losing yourself when they disappoint you. You can want things, deeply and genuinely, without those things having the power to destroy your peace if they do not arrive. Seneca described it this way: hold everything in an open hand, not a closed fist. A closed fist holds tightly, and when what it holds is taken, the whole person breaks. An open hand holds gently, and when something leaves, the hand remains open, ready. Phil. This is the most important relationship shift you will ever make. Not just with people, but with outcomes, with plans, with expectations. You invest everything, and you cling to nothing, because clinging is where suffering lives. Not in the loss itself, in the unwillingness to release. The river does not mourn the water that has passed. It keeps moving. Be the river. The seventh truth: your peace is your responsibility. This is perhaps the hardest truth of the entire Stoic philosophy. Your peace is not someone else's responsibility. Not your partner's. Not your parents'. Not your friends'. Not your employers'. Not the government's. Not the algorithms'. Not the economies. Yours. Completely. Totally. Irreversibly. Yours. And this is hard to hear, because it means you cannot blame anyone for your lack of peace. You can acknowledge that people hurt you. You can acknowledge that life was unfair. You can acknowledge that things happened that should not have happened. All of that can be true. And your peace is still your responsibility. Because peace is not the absence of painful events. Peace is the decision, made again and again every single day, to return to your own center regardless of what is happening at the edges. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome during plague, war, betrayal, and personal loss. He had every reason, every legitimate reason, to be broken. And every morning he woke up and chose to be steady, not because life was kind, because he had decided that his inner world would not be governed by his outer circumstances. That decision is available to you. right now, tonight. Not when life gets easier. Not when people change. Not when the situation improves. Make the decision. My peace is mine. Nobody can take it without my permission. And I do not give that permission to anyone. Say it until you mean it. Live it until it becomes automatic. And watch how the world loses its power to shake you. The daily practice. Never be affected. This is how you live this every single day. You wake up and before the world gets in, you set your mind. You remind yourself of who you are and what you stand for. You remind yourself that today, people will say things. Events will happen. Plans will shift. Nothing will go exactly as you imagined. And none of it, has to touch the place where your peace lives. When something happens that would normally affect you, you pause. You breathe. You ask, does this deserve space inside me? If it does, you process it with intention. If it does not, you let it pass. Like clouds moving across a sky that does not move. At the end of the day, you sit in silence. You review. Not to judge yourself, to learn. Where were you steady today? Where were you shaken? What triggered you, and why? What would the strongest version of you have done differently? This review, done honestly and without self-punishment, is where the real growth happens. Not in the big moments. In the quiet ones. In the daily, unglamorous, invisible practice of becoming someone who cannot be moved. Here is what I want you to take from tonight. You are not at the mercy of this world. You never were. You were simply never taught that you had a choice. Now you know. The noise outside cannot touch you unless you open the door. The opinions of others have no authority over your identity unless you grant it. The chaos of life cannot reach your center unless you abandon it. Stay in your center. Return to it every time you drift. And keep returning, without judgment, without frustration, for the rest of your life. That is the practice. That is the Stoic mindset. That is how you move through this world. Feeling everything. Ruled by nothing. Never affected. If tonight changed something in you, if something in this hour shifted your perspective, do not let it fade by morning. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on the bell. Because every single week I bring you content like this. Deep, real, built from the most powerful philosophy ever written, designed to make you unshakable. This is not entertainment. This is training. Welcome to the Stoic mindset. Now go live it.